can't solve the problem within the system because the system itself is the problem.
Welcome to Bantu Bitcoin, or once again, as we say in the Bemba language here in rural Zambia, Maiseni Pomakwai Bonse.
Or Ichungalo Pomakwai, which means good afternoon.
My name is Harrison, and I'm an American living here in Zambia, mostly since 2018, COVID accepted, and I'm learning the local language called Bemba in the work that I do here, independent of Bitcoin. Bantu Bitcoin is a Bitcoin-only education podcast and network, which we hope to grow in many different local language RSS feeds. I want to thank Anita Posh for her partnership and leadership with Bitcoin for Fairness in hosting this podcast, Bantu Bitcoin, and others at btcpodcasting.com. Bitcoin for Fairness created this podcasting platform free for people like myself who are helping to educate people about Bitcoin on the ground here throughout Africa in as many local languages as possible via the medium of podcast. If you speak a Bantu language, or any language other than English for that matter, we invite you to join us in this mission of translating accessible Bitcoin education content.
If you want to, please reach out. It's bantubitcoin@protonmail.com, or find the show on Twitter at bantubitcoin. Or myself personally, it's a name I'm sure you can remember, at Satoshi Nakamoto. That first S, though, is the number 5. Here's an update on the broken dam situation and about what's been happening here in this rural village of northern Zambia these days, now in June 2023. Last I mentioned, the dam was blown out. Government response was quite disappointing, but sorry to say, not all that surprising for a host of reasons I could get into some other time. The community has finally realized the extent of the damage, talked amongst themselves, and started to dam together whatever they can with just hose and sandbags where available. So this furrow is one of the community's primary arteries carrying water for drinking and to farms for irrigation for over 2,500 people. If you want to contribute to the community here in this village in helping repair this dam themselves, feel free to send any donations to the show's Lightning address here, and I promise we will see to it that any sats donated go to helping this immediate effort. Thank you very much. Even simple sandbags have already gone a fair way. Our new Lightning address is bantubitcoin@getalbi.com. The community would thank you for your consideration. Tuato telasana, they would say in Bemba. So I recently sat down with Ba Humphrey, and in sharing some Bemba language learning with you in this podcast, I'll tell you that we say Ba because in Bemba language, Ba is an honorific for people's names, like Mr. Humphrey. So, Ba Humphrey is one of our fellow leaders and Bitcoin educators at Bitcoin for Fairness here in Zambia. Specifically, he's in the capital of Lusaka. In this great interview, Ba Humphrey and I talk about a range of topics, from inflation, as we experience it here in Zambia, Bitcoin as sound money, the importance of Bitcoin education at this time, financial literacy in schools here, what politics looks like, Machankora and mobile money, Zambia's 2013 debasement, Elon Musk, Nostra, yellow cards, high spread, strike just before Jack Mallers made his announcement about expanding into many countries, Zambia being one of them, what being an Uncle Jim looks like, the prevalence of scams in Zambia, and an overview of the remittance market. Well, that's a mouthful. This is a fantastic episode. This was a really fun chat. Thank you, Ba Humphrey. Let's get into it. Welcome to Bantu Bitcoin. Maiseni Pomakwai Bonse. We're here in Lusaka at Scallywag's restaurant. I'm talking with Ba Humphrey today. Ba Humphrey is one of the fellow leaders here in Bitcoin for Fairness, an initiative of Anita Posh to bring Bitcoin education to different parts of the world. Ba Humphrey, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So as you said, I'm Humphrey. One of the leaders of Bitcoin for Fairness here in Zambia. Our task or our objective is just to spread the Bitcoin news to people, especially those people who are facing the negative impact of inflation.
Right.
So that's basically the main thing we do, is just teaching people about Bitcoin, organizing meetups, and talking about what is money, why there's inflation, what can we do about it, and why Bitcoin matters. So that's basically our focus.
It's important work.
Yeah, it's very interesting work.
Yeah.
So myself, I'm passionate about Bitcoin because I know like some of the solutions of this world, mostly they are not. It's like you can't solve them by being politics or maybe trying this. It's like you need a scientific way to solve them, and Bitcoin is a much better solution because no one can control it.
It's math.
It's math,
Yeah.
practically. Yeah.
Decentralized math on the internet.
On the internet.
Yeah.
And it's global.
Right.
So it doesn't matter where you are.
Right. I'm excited to hear that you're passionate about it. You mentioned inflation.
Inflation.
So, in my own case, for instance, I've been in Zambia here since 2018, and I've noticed that the kwacha has gone from 10 kwacha to $1 US up to 20 kwacha over the past 5 years. That's 100% inflation, or a 50% loss of purchasing power.
Exactly.
It's a big problem.
It's a very big problem, and the saddest part about it is that people don't know that it is the problem.
Right.
And the working class are the people who are suffering the most from this. And Bitcoin is a solution from the looks of things. I can't seem to think of any other thing that can solve this issue here in Zambia other than Bitcoin. So
Right.
I think Bitcoin is the way.
Okay. Yeah. So as you said, the working class people just see the price of fuel going up to 29 kwacha.
So like there was a time when I tried to ask a number of people, why are the prices of goods and services going up year after year?
Right.
And I was getting some really interesting answers. Some people were saying it's because of the global economy. Some people were saying it's because the prices of fuel is going up and all that.
Right. But then they might ask, why is the price of fuel going up?
Exactly.
Right.
So it's like they are not really asking why things are happening like that. They are not thinking from first principles, so to say. So it's really sad. It's really sad that people are being exploited and they don't know that they are being exploited. And as for me, I believe inflation is theft. So it's like the government is literally printing money to finance their expenditures, and through the process, they are stealing from people. So that's some of the biggest problem that we are facing. And we have noticed, especially BFF as an organization, the solution is education.
Yes.
Because once people learn what is money, they will ask themselves which money is the hardest form of money.
Right.
And as they begin to analyze the situation, they will realize Bitcoin is the best form of money. It's time to protect themselves.
Yeah, that's the inspiration for this podcast as well, and the work that BFF is doing.
Exactly. And it's really something else. Because another thing that Zambians, it's so sad. It's like when they see the situations are getting worse in the country, what they do is they try to seek for solutions by trying to...
In the politicians.
Okay, we need to look for a better person who can try to solve this problem. But you can't solve the problem within the system, because the system itself is the problem.
Right.
Because government is run by it's a fiat debt-based system. So politicians are incentivized to print so that they can please the voters. So it always leads to more debt, more expenditure from the government side, more inflation. So the solution ultimately is something which is outside of the government control. That's where Bitcoin comes in.
As our friend Jeff Booth likes to talk about.
Exactly.
Right. So that's interesting. Why do you think it is, as you say, that people look to politicians? Why is that the response that people often go to? Why do you think many people are not making the connection about inflation?
I suspect, number one, as we mentioned, education. Like, if you don't know how things learn, you will not know where the root cause of the entire thing.
Where did your passion for this topic come from? Did you study finance, or did you find yourself going down this rabbit hole through Bitcoin?
That's a very interesting question. So for me, basically, when I was in university, I had this passion to start investing. Yeah, I wanted to invest. Like you want to preserve and compound your wealth. So it's okay. This is a good thing. Yeah. So I started looking into companies like Facebook, because even here in Zambia, I've got some companies on the Lusaka stock exchange. But the thing is that the liquidity in these companies is a bit low, and people don't know much about the same investing process. So I started looking at companies which I know that if I begin to invest, and moreover I'm using some of these products like Google, Facebook, and all that stuff. Yeah, so I started looking into it, and then later I discovered that just because I'm a Zambian, it's hard, almost impossible for me to invest in some of these companies. Yeah, so I said, okay, what can I do to actually find? It's like to find the privilege to actually.
Right. And what year was this?
That was around 2016, 2017
Okay.
when I started looking into these things. So later on, I decided, okay, let me try to look at government bonds. Yes, it was a good offer, because here in Zambia, government bonds, I think they offer a yield of like between 15 to 20%. It's a good offer. Yeah, not until I discovered that inflation was also around that level, so it was more like a negative yield.
Right.
Yeah. So that's when
But still better than what most people are getting.
Exactly.
They're not invested at all.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's when I started looking. Okay, this is a problem, and I need a solution to this, and I need a solution that such that I'm not affected based on where I live. I wanted something that is a standard that is measured at a global level.
Hard money.
Exactly. Yeah, hard money.
Did you consider gold?
Yeah, I considered gold actually. It's funny because I tried to look at gold, but the thing is, I don't know of any investment firm here in Zambia which offer opportunity to invest in gold.
Okay.
Not at all. And
No.
moreover, it's illegal to have gold
Is
here
it?
in Zambia.
Illegal.
Yeah, it's practically. I don't think you can have a bullion.
Not much more beyond jewelry.
Yeah, I don't think it's allowed. Yeah, because
Interesting.
even when you are mining gold, you have to have some form of licenses and.
Right.
Yeah. So Bitcoin came out as the best option out of it all. So okay, this one is better because as a Zambian, I'm a nobody, like practically in Zambia, but I can buy some Bitcoin. Yeah, and it was easy to get my hands on Bitcoin. So okay, this is good, something that I can get my hands on. And by then I didn't know much about Bitcoin, so I started studying it.
Right.
Yeah, that's what led to more studying and later the passion about it. So, okay, this can change the world for sure.
As a fellow young person, do you think part of maybe the ease of grokking what Bitcoin is comes from your involvement with paying attention to the internet and technology, whereas older generations might be later to learning about Bitcoin?
Yeah, I could agree, because as we know, Bitcoin is digital. So in fact, I hear a lot of when I talk to some elderly people, I ask them, there's this thing called Bitcoin. Usually what they say is, can I touch it? Where does it come from? Who owns it? Who controls it? It's like they just can't seem to understand completely.
Right.
Yeah, but for the young guys, it's a bit easy because it's like we are born in a generation of computers. So it's not a very hard concept to understand, and we know a bit of the internet and all that. Yeah.
And even if we think about it, even for people who have bank accounts, as not everybody does with high fees, but we don't hold our money in the bank either.
Yeah, true.
And people are using cash less and less. Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed an interesting thing in the village where I live. I was buying from the market, and the Bamayos, they did not want to take the 5 Ingwe coin. Right, and so the 5 Ingwe, and if I was buying something for 1 kwacha, okay, so that's 20 of them. So this is the equivalent, or maybe if we could say it's proportional to, like, if in the United States, if I was buying something for $1, it would be like not taking a nickel. Okay, and in part, I can say, well, their refusal to want to take the Ingwe shows that, okay, it's losing its purchasing power, right? So that's the inflation.
So it's funny because they have a feeling that something is wrong,
Right.
but they can't explain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
That's a good
everyone
way.
knows that something is wrong somewhere.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, no wonder for me, I never understood what money was, not until Bitcoin. I came across Bitcoin because I understood, okay, Bitcoin, because the core principle of Bitcoin is 21 million
Right.
coins. So only 21 million. So okay, what's the significance of this? It's like it's hard money.
Right.
No one, it's finite, so no one can produce more of it. And then when you look at our money, the one we use, they say every time things are going up in price, so why is it? You realize that it's the money supply. Where is it coming from? The governments are printing it, but people somehow don't question it. Yeah, and another thing is the government. They have hidden this knowledge. It's like they never talk about how money is produced.
Right.
Never ever.
We don't get financial literacy in
Exactly,
school.
exactly. So it's a disaster.
Yes, it is.
It's a disaster. So the people who are suffering the most are those people, marketeers who are working the hardest, the middle class who are like actively working. They are people who are suffering the most. Yeah, and politicians are benefiting, of course, and those people who have property. So,
Right.
so the main issue, as you have said, is education, I think. Because once people get it, it's like once you see it, you can't unsee it. So
So, to make a comparison, in the U.S., we have a very divisive politics. And I would agree with you that I think the root of many of our social issues, we can trace it back to the money.
money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Are you finding, is the politics here in Zambia, does it seem divisive? Or are the parties working collaboratively on this issue?
So for me, okay, there's a part of me a long time ago. I wanted to change the world, and I thought, okay, maybe I can be a politician. I thought in those lines, yeah. But down the line, I started thinking that maybe politics is the cause of these many problems we are facing. So that's the thing. So what usually happens is that, for me, how I see it, especially here in Zambia, politicians, it's like most of them, they come with good intentions. They want to change. We'll bring free education. We'll do this. We'll change this. We'll change this. Yeah. But once they are elected and they are in power, what happens is that they have to now keep the promises, and to do that they need money. So they are forced to print, because if they don't print, they will not be re-elected. So it's like within the system, the solution is not there. So most of them, they have got good intentions, but the how, it's like it's impossible within the system. I think that's the issue that I'm seeing, yeah, in Zambia. Most of them, they want to help Zambians, they want to change the lives of Zambia, but
Right, of course.
it's within the system. So it's a sad reality, but
Are there any politicians, do you think, that are aware of this as a problem in the money itself, and do they talk about it, or what do you think of the possibility of a young person like yourself or others who are familiar with this economic problem? Do you think that there's a space in politics for somebody to talk about these things?
I feel like I could say there are some politicians that are aware of the problem with the money. They know, yeah. So, and the only issue that's there is like they are thinking from maybe the Keynesian point of view, the Keynesian economics point of view, maybe. So they know the problem, but the approach to solve the problem, I think that's where I see the issue is. Yeah, and in Zambia, I don't know if you have noticed, but the politicians is mostly the old age.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really hard for a young person to get into the political arena to talk about these things. Yeah.
Right.
But with the emergence of the current the new government, I've noticed that there are a couple of young people. Yeah, but still the dominant ones are old guys. So so it's still a bit tricky.
Same in the U.S. as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So we are praying that should change. Yeah, it will change eventually, but yeah, because yeah, it's delaying a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's delaying a lot of things.
Would a young person who could get into a political arena perhaps then inspire a lot of the Zambian constituency?
Yeah, I feel like that's a possibility because okay, again, it has to come to, because a lot of young people here in Zambia, frankly speaking, they don't know much about money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if someone who is financially literate, so to say, and knows what is money, I feel like, yeah, that's definitely a possibility. It can inspire. They can really inspire people to start looking into these things. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a time when Zambia will start buying some Bitcoin into their treasures. Yeah, I think it could be a very good thing.
Yes.
It's like, I feel like it has got all the advantages and zero disadvantage to it, because it just print money, you buy, you hold. When a country which has got its own currency decide to adopt Bitcoin, it will be a huge thing, because they'll be able to print to buy. Because El Salvador, in as much as they're a sovereign country, they are using the US dollar.
Right.
So
They can't print their own currency.
yeah, they can print.
Yes.
So for a country which can print their own currency and then they adopt Bitcoin,
Right.
it will be huge.
Do you think any countries right now are doing that and are quiet about it? Because that's the strategy.
Yeah.
You should be quiet about
Yeah.
it. You know?
It's supposed to be, yeah, for sure. It's possible.
We could see the hash rate in mining. We can see the hash rate has gone up a lot in just recently.
Yeah.
So we can see that there's activity happening.
Yeah, that is a possibility.
Uh-huh.
That is a possibility. I feel like the people that could easily go into Bitcoin are dictators actually.
Right.
Because it's like, especially, let's say for example, if Mugabe understood Bitcoin, for example,
Right.
and he has got that conflict with the US, for him he could easily just switch to Bitcoin because he wants to piece off.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
this is the definition of geopolitical game theory.
Exactly.
Right? But if only the worst leaders or authoritarian governments recognize that, and they take advantage of Bitcoin, but other governments aren't, or they make it illegal for their citizens, you're only hurting yourself.
Exactly, and your citizens.
Yeah. Has President HH or anyone in the administration been talking about aspects of, well, not only just Bitcoin, but they're probably using the language of digital currency or cryptocurrency or CBDCs, digital ID?
Yeah.
Are those topics coming up?
Well, I think the only thing that I've heard in those lines is, okay. When it comes to, I've noticed the current government and HH, the president, well, they are leaning towards in agreement with the International Monetary Fund,
the IMF,
the World Bank, and they recently got a loan and all that. Yeah, so for me, there isn't much hope in that direction, because for a person who is leaning towards that direction, it's like you can't go the direction of Bitcoin, for example, decentralized form of money. But overall, there's this Ministry of Technology and Science. It's like they are open to ideas. Yeah, so
is
I think
this
that's
Bajito? Jito? Is that?
oh yeah, there's I know, yeah.
Do you know
Gito.
him?
Yeah, I know him. I think.
Is he in that department?
I think that one is a special assistant to the president when it comes to
Okay, in
investment.
finance.
Yeah, in finance. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I think there was a time when he talked about Bitcoin.
Okay.
Yeah. Because frankly speaking, I feel like he knows. He may know one or two things about Bitcoin. Probably he knows.
Right.
But the thing is that when it comes to Bitcoin and decentralized thing, it takes courage.
Yeah, sure.
It really takes courage, and I don't think Zambians at the moment, we don't have someone like that who can speak out.
You know, it does take courage now, but the interesting irony of that is that 10, 15 years from now, we're going to look back on this time and say, wasn't that obvious?
Exactly. It's really sad. It's really sad.
Yeah.
The president did economics. He did economics, but the sad thing about economics is that there are two types of economics. So Keynesian economics and Austrian economics. So most likely the one that he learned is Keynesian economics, which they believe in government intervention and all that. Yeah, so I think, yeah, he understands how the economic machine works, but not from a place of hard money. I feel like that's another issue that we have. But there's hope. I say if we continue educating people.
Speaking of hope, do you have a vision of what Zambia looks like in however much time you'd like to think about? Maybe 10 years, maybe longer. What does an improved Zambia look like for you in regard to Bitcoin?
Alright, so for me, in regard to Bitcoin, an ideal Zambia for me, how it looks like. Number one, I want to see a situation where prices of goods and services were falling year by year. I think this has been one of the major issues we've been facing here in Zambia. Prices of goods are going up year by year. It's like practically everything, and houses, land, everything is going up in value. Yeah, so for me, an ideal Zambia is prices of goods falling down year by year, and that for me is only possible when people begin to realize what Bitcoin is, begin to save in Bitcoin.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
Yeah, and as we've talked about, if, as Jeff Booth says, technology is deflationary, right? And everything is technology. I mean, this bottle is a form of technology. This chair that we're sitting on, then every good should be getting cheaper over time as the marginal cost of production falls towards zero. And specifically with digital products, right? If you write a book, publish an ebook, you sell 50 books, okay? Maybe, selling the 51st book, there's no additional effort in a digital sense.
Exactly.
And we're living in an increasingly internet-based world. So we think of the premise, well, maybe everyone will soon have more access to the internet. These smartphones will get cheaper.
Exactly.
Up in the rural area where I am, not many people have a smartphone. But they do have these old school phones, right? We used to call them brick phones in the U.S. But now we have Machankora.
Yeah.
Okay, now, so that's a custodial solution.
Better than nothing.
Exactly. It's a step.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're on the right track. Yeah. Are you finding people using Machankora? Or,
So here in Zambia, Machankura is good for people. If you are teaching people about Bitcoin and then they don't have a smartphone, Machankura is a good introduction to that. Yeah. I feel like the only issue maybe in Zambia, because Machankura is mainly since it operates on Lightning, and then it's custodial, so it's mainly for payments and maybe just working with. For now, it's just working with, just familiarizing yourself with how the Lightning network works and all that without the internet. Yeah. So the main issue here in Zambia is that we have got mobile money. Yeah. So I've got Airtel mobile money and MTN mobile money, and this is more like relatively cheap. Yeah. So for payments, right now it's like it's not a big issue here in Zambia. So as much as people who are interested in Bitcoin, they play around with Machankura, it's like at the moment here in Zambia, I would say it's not a necessity.
Right.
Yeah. What's a necessity here in Zambia at the moment is Bitcoin as an asset, again as a hedge against inflation,
as a long-term savings account.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the prices of goods and services, they are going up real quick here in Zambia. Yeah. So I like the initiative of Machankora. I think it's a nice way for those people who don't have smartphones and all that. But the main issue is inflation. So Bitcoin as a saving technology, I think that's the main thing that I'm seeing here in Zambia. Yeah.
I appreciate your take on that. I agree with you. I think as a savings vehicle, the kwacha has been doing terrible. 100% inflation. Machankora's fees, I notice, right? Typically on the Lightning Network, if you had a custodial service that you could choose to have no fee, and sometimes a wallet of Satoshi transaction shows 0 fee,
Exactly.
which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Machankora, I believe, has a 1% fee, which is sometimes larger than using MTN or Airtel.
Exactly, because MTN, if it's MTN to MTN, is free. Airtel, if it's the same network, is free. So people opt. It's like that is kind of a best solution for payments here in Zambia.
And it's already being used.
Yeah, everyone has MTN, everyone has Airtel. So
I wonder what the threshold is. Is there a price point for sending a certain amount using mobile money at which the fee does change and it becomes worth it now?
yeah, so like if it's Airtel money, for example, I think if you are sending from the same network, I think it goes up to like 500 kwacha. I don't know the exact amount, but if it's like they give you something like in a month you can only send this much. If you go above, they will charge you a certain amount.
Right.
Yeah, and the biggest friction comes in if you're sending from one network to another network. For example, your MTN to Airtel network. If you send, there's always a charge on that one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so 500 kwacha, the exchange rate, it was approximately 20 kwacha. It's come down a little bit in the past month.
Yes. Yes.
Which is good for people.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be approximately close to a little over $25 then at 500 kwacha.
The kwacha in the long term will always go depreciate in value, and this has been proven over and over. And the way I've noticed, like whenever a new president is elected, by the time they leave, the price of the kwacha against the dollar goes down. It's like it hits a all-time low than the time that he found it. Yeah. So for example, when H8 was it came into power, I think the kwacha was probably 22 somewhere there. Right now it's at 18. Yeah, and it still have like I don't know how many years, maybe 3 years, 4 years. Ultimately, we know like the way it is like the kwacha in the long term always goes up. Like it has always been like that. And in 2013 particularly, our currency had zeros. So
Right.
they removed the zeros to try to make
Right.
what
was that transition like?
well,
Was that confusing for people?
It was a bit confusing, but it felt better because it feels like our currency has more value.
But now that was a debasement.
A debasement, exactly.
By, is that 3 orders of magnitude?
Exactly, 3 orders of magnitude. 2013.
Wow. So that's
Yeah.
pretty recent.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
Did that spawn people to... You would think maybe people might start to investigate how the money system works. Do you think that motivated some people
It
to learn?
motivated some people, but the average people
Aren't paying
were
attention.
just okay. Yeah. So when I look at people saying, okay, $1 is equal to 18 kwacha, in my head, because I'm educated, I know that there are supposed to be 3 zeros there. Yeah.
So you still think with the 3 zeros
I
at
still
it,
think it
even now?
Exactly.
Interesting.
Because I understand. It's like you can't, or maybe when you remove the zeros, when you debase, doesn't mean that the value of your money goes up. You have just removed the zeros. Yeah. So that's some of the issues that we are facing. So like we know for a fact. For me, I know for a fact that fiat will always go to zero ultimately. That's where it's going.
Yeah.
So,
and the Zambian kwacha is not the only one.
Exactly.
As we're seeing hyperinflation in Argentina, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Greece, Turkey. All these countries have issues.
Yeah, they all have issues, and
the U.S. too.
Yeah, and you can't compete against the U.S. frankly because the world reserve currency.
It has, as the world's reserve currency, it has a lot of undue influence.
Exactly.
You know.
So my advice to people is that when it comes to saving, the money that you need, I think Michael said that talks about this a lot. I feel like it's a good way of thinking about things. The money that you need in the space of, let's say, 6 months, you can save it in your local currency. Like for me, the money that I think I will need recently, I put it in kwacha. And then the money that I'll need maybe later on, maybe after 1 year or 2 years, I like putting it in dollars. I save there in dollars at least. And then the money that I will need maybe after 5 years, I like buying Bitcoin.
For Bitcoin.
Yeah.
The 5 years you're pursuing after that next halving.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
it's
So it's a minimum of at least 5 years. I just put it in Bitcoin. Like
Right.
that. Yeah, I think it's a good way of thinking about it.
you've adopted a long-term outlook,
Exactly.
low
exactly.
time preference.
Low time preference.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all because of Bitcoin.
Mm.
Yeah. It's like my mindset has shifted.
Yeah.
Once you understand money, I think you understand what the government are doing. You're kind of never the same.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting in that regard. In my own work outside of this Bitcoin effort, you know, I am employed by the government, and I've worked in D.C. in U.S. politics, and I know there are good people in government.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
You
Very
know,
good people, actually.
But you need more than good people to have sound finance.
Exactly.
You know.
So that's the thing. I think I like telling people that especially when it comes to politicians, it's like you have got good intentions. It's like you can be sincere, but you can be sincerely wrong about your
Yeah.
approach to
Right.
to solving the issue.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I feel like Bitcoin is a better approach. And the funny thing is, the issue that we are having is that people are not even interested to learn about it. Yeah, because everyone who tries to learn and they spend at least 5 hours learning or 10 hours, immediately they never go back. It's like, yeah. So I think that's the issue. Another thing is that they are not even interested to actually to look at it and how it works, what it is. Yeah, so I think that's one of the issues. Yeah. Everyone has got a dream to change the world, to make the world a better place. But sometimes you have to be humble enough to know that, okay, maybe I cannot do it. It's like we need a better system for this.
Right.
Yeah.
We can change the world in our own circle,
Mm-hmm.
and
Exactly.
I think we should humble ourselves. You know, in my work in what is purported to be sustainable development, and I think we do a pretty good job, honestly. But I have found that humbling oneself
It's very important.
for a country to come to another country and say, here's what you should do, and this is what historically has been done with the money system,
Exactly.
right? But true development should be led by the people themselves,
Exactly.
organizing together to say, here's how we can work together. And in the case with my work in development, it's if there are resources that we can provide about educational opportunities, let's work together. But
Exactly.
it's their goals,
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
We should see more of that.
Yeah, I think when it comes to humidity, I feel like to some certain degree, that's the issue that Elon Musk has, for example. Yeah, it's like you want to change the world, but it's important to be humble enough to know, okay, you cannot do it alone. You need something better. Yeah, so I think that's some of the issues.
Right.
Of course, I like his work and all that, but I feel like Bitcoin is good for humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for humanity.
You know, I have a lot of respect for him in regards to what he's doing with SpaceX
Exactly.
and Tesla
Exactly.
and the Boring Company. It's all very interesting. Although when it comes to digital currency and Bitcoin, as we say, you gotta wonder, why is he talking so much about Dogecoin?
I wonder. It's a bit sad. Yeah, but ultimately, I think what doesn't kill Bitcoin makes Bitcoin strong.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. You know, but on another level, he has a responsibility
Exactly.
with his platform
Exactly.
to not lead people astray.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, his refusal to embrace Bitcoin and him buying Twitter led to the creation of Nostr. So now,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, so
Silver lining, good thing coming out of that.
Yeah. So it's like people always find a way. So, so I feel like it could have been good for Twitter if he embraced Bitcoin.
Yeah.
People could have been zapping each other on Twitter and all that. But since he rejected it, maybe it was good somehow, because now we have got a solution that I feel like it has the potential of, if everything goes well, of changing everything about social media and everything.
Yeah.
So exciting. I think these are some of the things which, despite whatever is happening in inflation and government control, expansion of government, and these centralized platform banning people and limiting freedom of speech and all that. When I look at Nostra and Bitcoin, I get some hope. It's like there's some hope.
Yeah.
The more people realize, the better these decentralized platforms will get.
Mm-hmm. It's only a matter of time, really.
Yeah, for sure. And it's exciting because I'm only in Zambia. I'm a Zambian, but I can access these things. I can buy Bitcoin. I can open a Nostra account.
It's
and
exciting.
It's so exciting. Now I receive zaps and I'm zapping people. Like, okay, this is good.
Yeah. So speaking of education, that's what we're both realizing that this is a point in time here in Zambia and around the world where education is perhaps one of the best uses of our time.
Exactly.
And the need of the time is for people to learn about this. Have you thought about doing your own, whether it be a podcasting platform or speaking publicly, doing more education around this?
Yeah, I have thought about that. In fact, it's something that has always been at the back of my mind. Yeah. If situation allows, maybe attending some talks. Giving some talks or something like that. Hopefully maybe we can get into a place where we are able to talk to some guys in government to try to educate them why we need Bitcoin, why is it important.
Right.
Such things.
You, my friend, you know a lot about Bitcoin. And if I could just encourage you, from where I sit in the United States, from what I've seen with the Bitcoin adoption, as you know, the people who are most prominent in this space tend to be Westerners who've been involved for a long time.
Yes, for sure.
And it shouldn't necessarily stay that way. And you're absolutely right. There is a low barrier to entry in the aspect of recording audio content.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm finding personally is it's a good medium just to practice expressing myself.
Yeah, true.
And so even, not many people are aware of this podcast even now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing this because it's going to get a lot of followers.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk to the people like yourself
For sure.
doing this work.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think long term, trying to create this podcast in both English and Bemba, in a few years from now, people will be searching for Bitcoin education content in Bemba.
For sure.
Hopefully, this podcast will still be here.
Pop up, yeah.
Right? So
Yeah,
you might be listening to this 5 years from now in 2028,
Mhm.
and we're glad to have you.
For sure. Yeah. If it will touch at least or lighten up the mind of at least one or two people,
Yeah.
it will be amazing.
Do you find it difficult? Sometimes I get exhausted thinking about this, all the ways of explaining the nuance between Lightning and Layer 2 and mining and the hash rate and difficulty adjustment, right? And we got to take this in pieces, in little steps. The user experience will get easier, it will get better, people will not have to remember 24 words.
Exactly.
You can add a BIP39 passphrase and keep those separate. There's so much nuance to this. How do you go about explaining to people and the process of teaching somebody about Bitcoin?
It's really hard. Yeah, so...
Do you find that it could be exhausting sometimes?
Yeah, because sometimes I'll be explaining people about Bitcoin, the first layer, base layer, Bitcoin. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to talk about the second layer. And then they get confused all of a sudden. Yeah, so for me, I just try to simplify it. Okay, when it comes to base layer, you just have to master the 12 words or keep them safe. Don't put them on the internet. And then...
Don't even type them on a computer.
Exactly. Yeah. So make sure they're completely offline. And then the second layer just for small transactions. It's like your mobile money. Don't put a lot.
Right.
And it's really hard in Zambia because a lot of people have been scammed before. So explaining to them that this is not a scam, it's really hard for people to say, but who controls it? Who created it?
Right.
And then I tell them, Satoshi Nakamoto. Where is he? No one knows him. But can you trust it?
It sounds sketchy.
It's
good for people to be asking those questions.
Exactly. So begin to explain, and they say, no, but where does it come from?
Right.
So it's this computer solving mathematical equation problems and all that. But where are the mathematical problems coming from? And then you try to explain, and then he laughs and said, no. Yeah, but as you said, I think the most important thing is just sowing seeds. Yeah, you're sowing the seed that, okay, Bitcoin.
The double spend problem for me has been an angle in which to explain to somebody, okay, well, you have an email forward with a picture attached.
Yeah.
How do you prevent somebody from forwarding a digital item to multiple people? And especially if we're talking now about money, how do you prevent somebody from spending that money, sending it twice to somebody else?
Yeah.
Right? So if you can explain that Bitcoin solved that very real problem in computer programming through a transparent ledger that is on a network that nobody controls but anybody can access in a decentralized manner, that's very powerful.
Yeah. And it's really hard to explain that.
It is. Those are confusing words.
Say, double spend. What is double spend? Because I remember when I first heard about double spend problem, is it the Byzantine generals problem? So what is that? It never made sense until I had to go through it over and over. It's okay, I had to understand. Like when you have, for example, if I've got an MP3 file, when I send it to you, you have it, I also have it. I can send it to another person. So, yeah. So for, especially here in Zambia, it's really hard for people to understand because first of all, most people, they are not computer illiterate for like that.
Right.
Yeah. So it's very tricky. For example, my mom, she's not computer illiterate, and she doesn't know most of this technical thing because her education, she ended probably in grade 6, somewhere there. So she's So you find that it's really hard to explain some of these technical things. So just there it makes sense.
It takes a long time. There's so much nuance to it. But, you know, it sounds like when we talk about Bitcoin in this way, it almost makes sense to talk about it not as something that was created, but rather a discovery.
Exactly.
That we found a way on the internet to solve this very real problem
Exactly.
in a way that affects how everyone in the world transacts.
Exactly.
And if we agree with the premise that the internet is going to continue to play an important role, that in a few years, the internet is not going away, more and more people will only have access to it.
Exactly.
Smartphone technology will get cheaper, more prominent.
Yeah, but
There's really there's no denying that this is going to happen.
Exactly. And every year practically it's getting cheaper and cheaper, and more people having access to it. And you find that there was a time when having a phone, it was almost impossible. Yeah, I remember like 10 years ago having a smartphone. It was really almost impossible.
Very rare. Yeah.
But now almost everyone has it. Even kids and all that, they have it. Yeah. So some things are definitely, technology is inevitable. I think that's what gets me excited about Bitcoin, because you realize that a lot of people, for example, don't have bank accounts, but people have phones. Most people.
Right.
It's like the people who have phones are more than people actually.
And are they using mobile money?
Mostly they use mobile money. Yeah.
So do you think the transition to Bitcoin, when it's as we talked about mobile money, it currently, some of the fees are less than a 1% fee on a custodial Lightning network.
Yeah.
However, the difference is that when mobile money, you're using the kwacha, you're using a fiat currency that is debasing.
Exactly.
Whereas with Bitcoin, you have the option to save in a long-term way in an account that is programmed to not debase itself.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I feel like for people it won't be that hard to actually, to actually. I feel once they understand it. Yeah, because there's this issue here in Zambia. We've got about 3 networks, mobile networks. There's Zamtel, MTN, and then there's Airtel Money. So these networks, there's friction. They're interoperable, but the issue is that there are fees, big high fees when you are communicating from one network or sending from one network to the other. Yeah. So with Lightning, especially things like Lightning, once people begin to understand that, okay, this you can just send money for free, and it starts going in the heads of people, I think they'll start slowly migrating towards that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have
So-
you noticed, do any people adopt the strategy of having multiple SIM cards? Because I understand you can get a SIM card for
Exactly.
an account very inexpensively.
Mm-hmm.
And so just isolating their mobile money on different,
Exactly.
if they get network.
Yeah. In fact, people do that.
Yeah.
In fact, even this restaurant, I think what they do is that you can pay them through Airtel money, Zambia money, or MTN money. It's like people do that to prevent the friction.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
with something which has no friction like the Lightning network, it becomes way easier. So I think once people understand that, I think
Right.
it's just a matter of time.
But we need a non-custodial way with
Yeah.
with lower fees.
But I look forward to a time where people will be able to buy Bitcoin via the Lightning easy.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you're buying Bitcoin using the main chain, it's always the fees are a bit high for some people to
Right.
handle.
Yes.
Yeah, so if people could be able to buy Bitcoin through the second layer easily, I think it would be better because no fees and all that. Yeah.
I would think that should be possible.
It's possible, yeah? The only place that I've heard that is maybe Strike.
I was wondering if Strike, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Strike might be that way.
Yeah, but we need that here in Africa more than ever. Like
Strike is spreading quite a lot. They're
Oh,
adding new countries all the
nice,
time.
nice.
But Zambia is not there
it's
yet.
not there, unfortunately. Yeah, I feel like it would be easy to orange peel people. Say, okay, you can buy Bitcoin without any fees.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Jack Mahler's come to Zambia. Bring Strike over here.
Yeah, it would be actually very interesting. We need more of such actually, here, especially here in Zambia. Yeah, paying for fees, high fees could be quite a hassle. Yeah, because I think I was a certain friend. I told her, hey, you can actually buy some Bitcoin on Yellow Card. Yellow Card is an exchange here in Africa, and then she went there. So she deposited 100 kwacha, and then she bought, and then it appeared as 90. Okay, where is the 10 kwacha? So she was asking me, the fees and all that.
The spread.
She was a bit
Disappointed.
disappointed. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, but eventually, I think as Lightning improves, if that comes, I think it will be way better.
I have shared that frustrating notice as your friend, buying myself on Yellow Card, and seeing, okay, well, the initial purchase, this fee spread was here. I know that in the long term, Bitcoin will be way above where it is now, and so that return will come back eventually. This is a little bit of a dip in order to get in.
Exactly. So like what I do when it comes to my friends, the people who are close to me, it's like when they want to buy Bitcoin, sometimes because they buy in small bunches, so sometimes I could say, okay, you can buy through me, so that they don't feel the pressure.
You don't charge them the fee.
Yeah, they
that's
don't
nice.
feel the pressure.
Yeah,
Like that.
you're an Uncle Jim, as they say. You're helping your friends and family.
Yeah. But there are those situations where someone is in pressure like that, a friend, and I say,
That's true. Then it gets
can you-
awkward.
Yeah. It's, okay, I want to sell my Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I say, okay, I can buy them as long as I don't. There's no spread involved like
Right.
that. Yeah.
So I experienced something similar in the village where I am. I posted on Twitter about educating people in the community where I live about using Machankora, and people on Twitter donated. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So to the farmer, so Babwalia, he planted a lima of soybeans based on the sats that people sent him
Wow.
from this
amazing.
Twitter post, which is
Wow.
wonderful.
It's
Now,
beautiful.
when I was teaching him about Bitcoin, I was trying to be careful about, this is not something in which you're going to make a lot of money quickly.
Exactly,
It's not a
exactly.
get-rich-quick scheme.
Exactly.
It's more like a protocol to not get poor slowly. But it's a process of teaching somebody. So he came to me not too long after and said, I received these donations, and he wanted to use it.
Oh goodness.
And I can't fault him for not wanting to just hold on to Bitcoin for the next 10 years.
Exactly.
He finds himself in a situation in which this money can help him right now.
Exactly.
And so I was happy to exchange some of it for him. I tried to encourage him not to trade it all, just so that he would continue to pay attention to it.
Exactly.
And he's still interested.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Where I am, there's no running water, no electrical grid. People don't have smartphones.
Where I see Bitcoin education now
Mm-hmm.
is not to encourage people to buy Bitcoin.
Exactly.
It's to research it, to
Mhm.
learn about it,
Mhm.
to such that maybe in 3 years from now, they'll be hearing more about Bitcoin, as we both know, because it will obviously just gain more mass attention. And it would be nice for them to know, okay, wait, I've heard that word before. They're primed to think,
Exactly.
Bitcoin, it's not totally new to me now.
Mm-hmm.
Harrison told me about it,
Exactly. Exactly.
3
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah. In fact, yeah, in line with what you have said, I think for me, my mindset changed a bit here in Zambia, especially. A long time ago, I used to present it as you have to buy Bitcoin, but now it's you just have to study Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because once you understand what money is, what Bitcoin is, it will lead you to you want some.
Yeah, you'll buy it yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and then also because there's so many scams, right? We want to be careful not to come off in a way that is scammy to people,
Yeah.
because so many scammers have ruined, and it's natural. You know, it's natural that in a field as revolutionary as what we think Bitcoin is,
Yeah.
that it's going to attract people who
Exactly.
want to take advantage.
For sure.
Yeah.
Another thing that I was kind of thinking, I feel like the way they in El Salvador, where they have got the Bitcoin beach wallet,
Right.
yeah, where they have got one Sats and then the other one with Dora. I suspect maybe it could be a good idea to have something like that in Zambia, whereby one is Sats, the other one is is Kwacha, where
In the same app.
in the same app. So if someone wants to send Kwacha, they are sending it. It's like a bit of like strike,
Okay.
whereby they're able to send money to someone else
In the network.
via Bitcoin. But it's, how do you? It's like you are sending money to someone else, but you're using the Bitcoin network, but the your value, the Kwacha is not changing.
Right. It shows you a stable number.
Exactly.
I think that's what Strike does.
Yeah. I feel like having something like this, it could be a huge breakthrough here in Zambia because of the same friction between networks. So if you have one thing which is able to send like to anyone at any time, I think it can be a very interesting thing actually.
Right. So we're gonna send this podcast to Jack Mahlers, and we'll
Oh, yeah.
encourage him to bring Strike to Zambia.
Yeah, it would be really nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Are you familiar with any of the numbers around what the remittance market in Zambia might be?
What they do basically, for example, if you're receiving money via Swift, so when you receive, let's say, from someone who is in the UK or China or anywhere, they'll send you money. They have got a fixed charge of $15 to every transaction that you receive. So if someone sends you, let's say, $30, they will get 15.
That's a 50% charge.
That's a 50%.
Right. So that might only make sense if you're talking about a tremendous amount of money.
Exactly.
Right.
So you find that most Zambians, when they do a job online, it's like they don't get much money. It's like you are
The
trying.
fee.
Yeah. So let's say someone sends you a 40 and then they get 15, and then you remain with a 20. I mean, it doesn't really make sense, something like that.
I've experienced that myself as well. I've gotten paid online for some work that I do using PayPal. And PayPal took a huge cut just for that transfer. And I was like, oh man, I wish we didn't use PayPal for that.
Exactly. And it's so painful, especially if, let's say, someone has sent you a small amount. It's extremely painful. Yeah. With Bitcoin, we know, I think it's a much better way. Yeah, because especially if you're using the Lightning network, even just the base layer, it's a bit better than the $15 they charge.
You know, it's interesting. So we talk about the benefits of the Lightning Network for lower payments, even for the base one on chain. If you were sending $1 billion, the fee in Bitcoin on chain would proportionally still be extremely low.
Exactly.
Right? And now, but at the same time, using layer 2 on Lightning, we can now send Satoshi, one Satoshi.
Exactly.
Right? No fee.
No fee.
With credit cards, you can't charge less than like 63 cents on a credit card because it's inefficient based on the fee.
Exactly.
So now we've opened up a whole new niche market for the potential to use microtransactions for any a tweet.
Exactly. And it's huge.
It's
It's
amazing.
Yeah, it's just huge. It's literally a miracle. And it's funny how people haven't really understood what's going on. Yeah. It's funny. It's funny. I don't know. Yeah. But I think it's good. It's also, it's also good that people don't understand yet, because by the time they understand, because there are people who are building on top of Bitcoin and all that. By
It'll
the
get
time-
easier.
Yeah. So as it gets easier, things will become like,
Right.
So because I noticed that the first people to get Bitcoin, they were getting it through mining. Yeah, and then later on, people started developing exchanges and all that, but it was still very hard to get Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But as the infrastructure, the ways of getting it became easier, that's when more people started
Right.
coming. So I feel like, everything is good for Bitcoin.
It will get easier.
Yeah.
What concerns me in that regard is that the people who are going to benefit the most are the people who get involved earlier.
Exactly.
And because it's outside of any country,
Mhm.
this is basically an instance of geopolitical game theory, right?
Exactly.
There's a race going on, essentially, and people don't even know that they're playing.
Exactly.
I feel an urgency. I feel like I'm not doing enough,
Yeah.
to help educate people about this as soon as possible.
Exactly. It's really sad. Especially Africa, we need something like this. Because I was trying to explain something to someone that look at the situation. For example, here in Zambia, almost everyone has got a Gmail account, but do you own a part of Alphabet, Google? Finally, you don't.
Yeah.
You have a Facebook account, but you don't own a part of Facebook. It's the same with Twitter and all that. So if you are looking at this situation, it's like you are poor, but since they are monetizing your attention, it's like you are still sending money.
They're making money off your time, your information, your data.
Exactly. Yeah. But with Bitcoin, you are an equal participant in this thing. I think that's the one thing that's exciting about it. It's like we have got all equalized to the network. We are all participants. Yeah, it's like I'm not only using the network, I'm also have a share in the.
It's
in
a
the
fair
ownership.
system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that you bring up a good point, because people have said before, it doesn't seem like Bitcoin is going to solve wealth inequality if there are these people who got in early and they have more Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that may be true to some extent. I don't think Bitcoin solves wealth inequality. I think it helps improve it over the long term.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the important distinction that what Bitcoin does is that for the first time ever, we have a worldwide network that is truly fair to participate in.
True.
And that's worth that change.
Exactly. So, a leveled playground at least.
Yeah.
I think that's what we needed. Yeah. So I think that alone is great, because I'm thinking of a situation where some people, let's say, some people in Zimbabwe, they have got the Zimbabwean dollar, and then someone in the UK has got the British pound. So we are both citizens, and we do not choose to be born in this country, but we are in this country. So I'm working hard, but the government, they are stealing my money. And then someone in the UK, they are working hard. Of course, it's a bit controlled.
Yeah.
So you find that someone in Zimbabwe is disadvantaged, and he didn't do anything to deserve that. So if you have got a leveled play ground, now it becomes a bit, you have a chance of actually making it. So that alone is huge.
Yeah.
So it may not solve the entire problem, but it gives you a chance.
Right.
And that alone, I feel like is big. Although people haven't realized it yet, I feel like it's huge actually.
It is absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Because even if you're not, you don't have to be getting into Bitcoin to try to make a lot of money. In fact, I would caution against that. It's more about preserving your purchasing power, creating a savings account that won't debase.
For sure.
There's so many people around the world who that is a tremendous benefit for.
The world would eventually realize.
Bitcoin for fairness.
For sure.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a good name.
It's a very good name actually. But as people realize, okay, this thing is a better technology. Yeah, it's like it's like slowly then suddenly. It's like
How long do you think it takes here in Zambia?
I feel like it will take hyperinflation.
A terrible event.
Exactly. So it will take, because sometimes pain is what for some people to wake up, they need a wake up call. So it will take some form of pain, hyperinflation, for people to realize, okay, maybe something is wrong. And we have already removed 3 zeros from our currency. So that in itself is a wake up call.
Right.
Yeah. So it will take that. It also take a lot of education. I wonder how long exactly, I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, but I feel like we're getting there like very fast, especially nowadays.
I've said it before. I think you are a tremendous leader in this space. You know, you are so far ahead with this knowledge
Oh goodness me.
about this issue, as I've seen it here, that you have a tremendous potential to help educate people. You might explore creating a podcast, and you know, BTC podcasting has made it easy. You know, you can even join with Bantu Bitcoin if you want to share your thoughts on this podcast
Educating people, yeah.
anytime. Yeah.
That's a very good idea. Just focusing on what's in my heart. If I was to start a podcast, is I would like to really focus on Zambians, just Zambians.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like there's this theme that Bitcoin is just scam. It's just a scam. Yeah, it's a very sad reality. And here in Zambia, what people are doing, people who have got money, they are learning towards land and real estate. So it's just basically that. Yeah. So it's because of, I think people know there is a problem, but they just fear it, and their like first option is let's buy land, because land always increases in value like that. Buying of land is just it's like just asset inflation in a way, just trying to. Yeah.
Now, are younger people then perhaps people who are looking maybe to buy their first home? Are they noticing that home prices and land prices are more expensive?
Yeah. So it's like for a lot of young people that I talk to, they don't have any hope of actually buying a home because it's extremely expensive. Unless if you go in extremely bad areas, which but
You shouldn't have to do.
Yeah. So it's really sad because I think that's another thing about Bitcoin. It's like I've got hope. There's this thing of if Bitcoin succeeds, the prices of real estate and land will fall.
Yeah, everything will fall against Bitcoin.
Yeah, because it's like people are using that to speculate. They're just trying to speculate to keep their value and all that. So Bitcoin will make things way better.
It's interesting to hear you describe this problem, which is exactly the same as I've seen it in the United States too. Every country is experiencing
the
this.
same issue.
People put their money in real estate, housing prices go up, and young people say, you know, I don't even think of that I'll end up ever buying a house.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
it's just, and that is so far from what we used to call the American dream.
Exactly.
Which was that you could buy a house and start a family and
yeah. Because even here in Zambia, there's this trend of people are afraid to get married. People are afraid to get married because things are not okay. Yeah. So what people usually say, for you to marry, it's like the idea is like things have to be stable. You have to have a stable income and maybe a place to live and all that, so that you start a family and But because things are not okay, it's like the age range of people marrying has gone way high, actually, very high.
people are marrying later.
Yeah.
I think that's a worldwide trend.
Yeah, it's really sad, actually.
Yeah.
It's really sad. So it's tricky because there are so many good things about Bitcoin that people just don't see. No wonder people say, why are you so obsessed about Bitcoin? Say, okay, Bitcoin solves a lot of issues because the main issue is just money. Yeah, because money is a weapon of control. It's like we are slaves in a way. Working hard, people are stealing, the government is stealing and all that.
Stealing your time.
Yeah.
And I mean, money is just a measure of the effort we put in, the work energy into our time, because time is the real money.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So people don't see it.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll see it eventually. The world will eventually see it.
They will.
They will eventually see it. Yeah. But the work is like it will take a lot of work because education, especially here in Africa, I could really like it for a lot of because the thing is that in as much as the Western people, there are a lot of Western people have now understood Bitcoin. They know what Bitcoin is and and they are trying to push its adoption. The people who need it the most are the people who are in Africa and developing countries. These are the people who really need it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I feel like if we were just to take a stand and just let's buy Bitcoin, let's just push Bitcoin, it could change everything. Probably could even force countries like the US to start buying it again.
That would be the real flippening.
Exactly.
It's not Ethereum coming for Bitcoin. It's the developing countries adopting Bitcoin before the wealthier ones.
Exactly.
And that is tremendously empowering. You know?
Yeah, because it will now force it. Like it creates new competitions. Like, what is this thing that people are doing?
Yes.
It's like it will create this thing of, especially countries in the West and all that. Say, okay, maybe we are missing out on something big. I feel another issue that we have here in Africa, maybe it's like and in politics specifically, it's really hard. There's this thing of thinking for themselves. Politicians really lack that ability. They can't think for themselves. Like they like mirroring what what other nations are doing. No wonder like what this guy, the president of El Salvador, that's a bold step. It's like you're going the opposite direction.
Right.
So, yeah. So I could love for more presidents to think for themselves.
Yes.
Create something new, a new road.
Right.
That could be really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and then you hear of things about like the head of the IMF and others writing a report saying we're concerned about El Salvador using Bitcoin. Like it's not even your place to say that. You know, it's another country making their own decisions.
Exactly.
What arrogance.
So say because they want you to do what they tell you.
Yeah. It's tremendously hopeful that we have this new system emerging.
Yeah. Because if it wasn't for Bitcoin, I suspect maybe I could have been interested in. Because right now I'm not interested in politics. It's like my interest in politics has reduced significantly. Because it's like I found something that I feel like it's a better tool to help change the world. Yeah. I don't know what could have happened to, let's say, what I would have been focusing on if it wasn't for Bitcoin. Yeah.
I relate with that. I can relate with that a lot. I also had a political interest.
Yeah, political interest.
I'm very motivated by Bitcoin and the need for education. I'm grateful to be talking with you and involved in this space here. I wonder, for people who, the quote, they say, to those who much is given, there's much responsibility, right? We have been given this knowledge. We've sought out this knowledge. We have it now. I feel a responsibility, and I wonder, I ask myself, playing a part in politics, it sounds painful to me. It would be a hard route, but could it be a way of having a positive impact? Now, I know other well-intentioned people have said that for years. They get involved in politics, and then they get corrupted. It would be easy for me to say, or for you to say, oh, I know I won't get corrupted.
Yeah.
How is
collapse and absolute power collapse, absolutely. So
Yeah.
Ultimately, I feel like the main thing is just education, because if two people we agree that okay, we'll be using Bitcoin and it creates a network, because the network effect. So the more people learn about it and understand what money is, I feel like that's where the real adoption eventually will happen. Yeah. But again, I also think politics can also play a major role if the main leader understands what money is. Like, for example, the president of El Salvador. If they understand what money is and what Bitcoin can do, they can play a significant role.
Yes.
Yeah. But the incentive of politics doesn't really allow that necessarily, because you want to be re-elected and
Are there term limits for politicians here in Zambia?
Yeah.
There are.
Yeah. So the president can only rule for like 2 terms here in Zambia.
What about other levels of government?
Other levels of government, no.
Okay.
Yeah, you can be a member of parliament. I think it's indefinite. I may be mistaken, but yeah, members of parliament can be there indefinite. It's only for the president is just 2 terms.
Right. Same in the U.S., and we don't have term limits. The president does 2 terms now. But for Congress, there's no limit, and because they're thinking of re-election. So I think if we had term limits, that would go perhaps a fair way. Also, I think if we redefined this definition of public service and the idea of what it means to be a politician or to be an elected official, that it should be something in which everyone in the country, everyone in the community can participate somehow. Or maybe like jury duty, right? On a rotating basis, it's expected that you might be called to serve. The notion of public service, I think, is a definition that has been ignored largely, particularly in the U.S. We often might refer to, people talk about the military, but they forget about programs focused on volunteerism. Like there's a program called AmeriCorps and the Peace Corps that are also forms of public service, not based in warfare. Ba Humphrey, thank you for talking with us today. I'm inspired hearing about all that you are sharing with people about Bitcoin and the potential here in Zambia.
It was a pleasure. Yeah.
Is there anywhere that you would like to send people to your Twitter or Nostra?
All right. So right now, I think I'm just Nostra. I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Just Bitcoin Diary. You find me there.
Bitcoin Diary at nostraplebs.com. On Nostra, is it?
Yeah. Bitcoin Diary. Yeah.
Okay.
You find me there.